Hey everybody, what's going on? JJ here from Zealous Conversations. JJ here.
And Jonathan here.
Man, it's been a minute.
It's been a minute since we did one of these.
Yeah, the last thing we talked about was the resurrection.
So that was Easter,
Yeah.
And, little bits happened since Easter.
Yeah, and one thing I want to, segue into, speaking of the crucifixion in that land over there, you recently just came back from a trip in Israel.
Yes, what a privilege.
Getting to see the Holy Land and everything that's going on there, especially now, all this drama and the war and
that's right.
Everything that's going on.
We kind of snuck it in there before. I got back on Tuesday and they were attacked on, was it Saturday?
I think so, yeah.
Yeah, I think so.
So it's just crazy stuff going on over there. And you went. And you came back and you lived to tell the story.
And I lived to tell the story.
So
Israel's a beautiful place. I wish everybody in the world could go at some point.
Yeah.
We did have a special opportunity. I have been one time before, and the tour company that I went with is very concerned and engaged with the Israeli Board of Tourism and the government there and the tourism industry as a whole. And they want people to come. They want people to feel safe.
Yeah.
And so they kind of threw together an invitational thing for those of us who are tour hosts and have been there. So I got to go again here kind of last minute. I was over there from April 1st to April 9th. And we got to see very much of the country from the north to the south. And we were perfectly safe. One of the things we noticed was there was no tourists. There was nobody at these places. They're usually very busy. You go to the Church of the Holy Sepulchre and you have to wait 3.5 hours, to get in because there's so many people. You go to Caesarea and the parking lot should have 20, 30 tour buses in it, and there's none. So we almost had like a private tour.
No tourists want to go to Israel right now.
Right, because they're so scared.
So
I kind of get it. I kind of don't, really. Obviously, I wasn't scared.
Is Israel shut down? What's it look like over there? You were over there.
Right. Israel is not shut down. Within the country, they're building buildings. Their highways are busy. All the stores are open. People are doing their daily life. The one difference between now and the last time I was there was when you're checking into the hotel has to tell you where the safe rooms are.
Safe rooms.
So if you hear a siren, you go and get one of these safe rooms. This is because of the rockets that are fired periodically. Of course, we were there for 8 days, and there was no rockets. There was never an alarm. But it's just something they kind of have to say, in light of the attacks from October the 7th.
Right.
And the people are, by and large, very happy to see us. We were in classic Israeli territory. We also went into some Palestinian areas. Everybody happy to see you. Tourism is a huge industry there. They all want the tourists to come, and there is no interest in anybody from any side of any of the conflict over to harm tourists. That doesn't make anybody any money. That hurts everybody.
Yeah. So when you were over there, what was your intent? Like, what was the purpose of taking a trip like that?
One of the purposes was just simply that, to show that we could fly in, get on a bus, be in Israel, moving up and down the highways and going to the tourist sites safely. That's in the interest of the tourism industry. The government there is very happy for us to do that. Another part of that is for us as Americans. We have tours. I have a tour that's it was set up for June of 2024. Now it's set up for June of 2025.
Pushed back a year.
I want to encourage people to go, so I need to go. I need to show, well, I've been, and it's okay. And obviously, all of that changed this past Saturday. Ever say all of a sudden the Israeli airspace is closed off again, and they wouldn't let us come. If one thing we can learn and we can definitely say is, if they let you come, if the airspace is open and planes are flying in, delivering people, then they deem that it's safe for you to be there.
Yeah.
Yeah,
they got a lot of people watching.
Yeah, there's a lot of people who have interest in keeping people safe.
Yeah.
Obviously from every angle.
Mm-hmm.
So, but this past Saturday, in case listeners don't know, I think you'd have to be under a rock not to know, but for the first time ever, Iran attacked Israel by launching hundreds of attack drones and some missiles. There was minor damage at one Israeli military post. Other than that, there were no penetrations of Israeli airspace that had any effective detonation. All these things were blown up in the air, either by Israel or by Jordan or by the United States interests in the area.
Yeah.
So the attack was unsuccessful, but the history-making part of it is that it was the first time that Iran has attacked Israel from their own country.
Yeah, because they have been attacking Israel.
Yes.
But
regularly, through proxies, through other organizations. They send the funds and the munitions to Hezbollah or the Hamas organization, and they attack.
Yeah, Hamas
this time they took ownership.
Hamas gets their intel from the Iran leadership. They're funded and trained by Iran.
Yeah. And another thing that you really... You kind of have an idea of what it would be like looking at it from the outside, but when you're there on the ground, there are hundreds of thousands of Palestinians who are fine people. There are a lot of Palestinian Christians in Israel who would never try to kill a Jewish person, who are not trying to overthrow the Israeli government. They're just living there. They were born there. That's the homeland they know, and they're doing their business. And there's some very fine families in Bethlehem and Nazareth that are Palestinian, peaceful. The population gets along. They all shop in the same markets for day on end. For months and months and years, these people have lived side by side. No big hatred, no attacks and all that. These attacks and this terrorism is from some specific groups who have as a statement of purpose the extermination of Israel. Yeah. And they are all Muslim groups, but they're not all of the Muslim people are trying to do that. These specific groups are. We all, I think, by now have heard about the October 7th attacks. One of the elements of this trip was that I got to go and see those areas, those places that were hit on October the 7th.
Those are the four little
kibbutzes. Yeah, that's their word for a small village. A kibbutz is mainly agriculture. They're not all agriculture. Some of them have specialized manufacturing that they do. It's a small, like the little kibbutz that I visited had 900 residents. They kind of live in a cluster of homes, a little township kind of area, and all around it in a big circle, all the way around this kibbutz is large expanses of farmland, and everybody in the kibbutz works on the farm. They produce the crops. From everything you have to do to produce crops. Several of those families are multi-generational now. Their kibbutzes were formed when kids were coming to Israel back in the 40s, the late 40s, who were
a while back,
whose parents were all taken in the war, taken in the Holocaust, and they had all these teenagers that had no parents, and they were shipped out of the countries they were in and sent to Israel. And they said, "Well, we need farmland. We need to be able to feed ourselves." So they kind of organized these kibbutzes. Lots of them came from Russia. There's kind of a Russian communal idea. And they picked spots where they didn't have population. They didn't have place. They put a kibbutz there. And the kibbutzes share a lot of their resources with each other. It's not a capitalist system that we would be familiar with. They all work together for the harvest. They all share the result. They all live in houses that are pretty much similar houses.
Cookie cutter homes.
Cookie cutter homes. Pleasant little homes, but not extravagant. And they have different functions. A kibbutz has what we would call a mayor. It has a council. It has security functions. It has school teachers. It has a medical clinic. It has everything you need in a little town.
Yeah.
And these are very peaceful places. They're not in metropolitan centers. They're out in the country, There's not the sound of traffic, the sound of sirens at night, and it's quiet. Everybody knows everybody knows your name, kind of a place.
Yeah.
And several of these in the south, near to the Gaza Strip, were attacked on October 7th. A highly organized Hamas terrorist event, and we got to go down and see that.
I can't even imagine.
It was very difficult to see. That was only 6 months ago. I don't know that Israel knows what they want to do with those sites. I do think some of them will be preserved as memorials to testify to the amount of violence that was done. We went to 2 of the kibbutzes that were hit. There were 4 that were hit in total. One of them was massively hit. Great amount of destruction. Right now, I think there's a discussion underway about whether that one will even be rebuilt. It was very badly destroyed. We did not see that one. We saw 2, both of which had, you can't even really say battles. You just have to say attacks, because the kibbutz is not a place with soldiers. It's a place with just people, who are living there. Moms, dads, grandmas, granddads, and their kids. And they work in the fields and come in at night and cook their suppers and go to bed. They don't have firearms and stuff like that. The kibbutz does have arms. They're in an armory in a central location, locked up. Mm-hmm. There is a security team in a kibbutz, and they train for emergency situations.
Yeah.
But you're talking about a little emergency team of maybe 15 people or 20 people who work during the day, and if an emergency happens, they run and get the fire engine, or they run and get an ambulance, or in the case of an attack, they would run to the armory and get weapons to defend the kibbutz.
Yeah.
But 15, 20 people are overwhelmed when the attacking force is 200 or 300.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Every one of those attackers has an assault weapon. Lots of RPGs came into the kibbutzes, rocket-propelled grenades, little cars, little trucks with large caliber weapons in the back, and they're driving around and just shooting indiscriminately, just killing for the sake of killing grandmas, babies, families who were mostly asleep. Lots of people were found dead in their pajamas.
Like 6 in the morning or something?
Yes, very early in the morning of a holiday, one of the Jewish feast days, Sukkot, the Feast of Tabernacles was going on. There is great evidence. It's very obvious that Hamas knew exactly in the kibbutz where they needed to go. They knew where the emergency centers were, the armories. They knew where the young families lived. They had targeted people to go and get. These kibbutzes are only 1 mile to 4 miles away from the Gaza Strip. The Gaza Strip being a long north to south strip on the coastline, and the kibbutz is being just inland of that. And from Kfar Azah, where we were, you could just look across a cultivated field and see Gaza right there. You can see the Gaza Strip. Between them, there are a couple of fences. On the morning of October 7th, Hamas terrorists tore down the fences in key spots, certain spots. They tore down all the surveillance cameras and opened the fences, opened gaps in the fences, all up and down from the north to the south. And certain numbers of them came across with certain targets in mind. And they went into these little quiet kibbutzes and opened fire on the homes and threw grenades and set houses afire and killed more than 1,500 people. They took hundreds of people captive. One of their goals was to take captives and take them back to the Gaza Strip to hold as hostages, to bargain with the Israeli government to get Hamas activists in jail freed from jail. And that is still ongoing. Yeah. Horrible stories. We talked with a woman who was in Kfar Azah the morning of the attack, who will only survive because she was able to keep the door of her safe room closed and stay quiet and basically be undiscovered. She heard the explosions. She heard the screams. She was texting with people, and their text stream would stop. They would stop responding. Their neighbors would text her and say, I think they are in our neighbor's house, and that stream would stop. Terrible things are visible in that village.
Yeah. What's strange to me is I don't have cable at my home, so I don't have like news channels, but I am a consumer of social media. I have Facebook, I have Instagram, and I do follow some pages that have information, but I mostly see stuff about what Israel's doing to Gaza. Israel, fires missiles into Gaza. Israel does this. Israel does that. Israel does this. And I don't recall seeing on any of my social media, what Hamas did on that day.
Yes.
And it just kind of feels like there's an agenda. It feels like there's some sort of propaganda to make Israel the bad guy.
Oh, yes. And there certainly is. I think if you look to the history of the UN, what I understand is that the UN has sanctioned Israel. In other words, they have rebuked Israel more than 2,000 times. They've not rebuked the Palestinian Liberation Organization, Hamas, Hezbollah, Iran. They rarely speak against those organizations. The determination of much of the elite leaders of the world is that Israel occupies Israel and that the Palestinians are an oppressed people. My bus driver, 2 times that I've been in Israel, has been a Palestinian, and he is not oppressed. He has good homes. He has a good job. His family's lived there for a long, long time. Many generations of his family have lived there. Israel has a homeland. They have a historical right to be in that place. The world doesn't want to recognize it.
Yeah.
This has been a problem for them for many generations. Israel's always the bad guy.
Yeah, and it just really seems like, there's people celebrating, in the streets when Gaza, takes out, the Israeli Defense Force.
Right.
And
be careful and say Hamas. Don't say Gaza. Gaza is an area.
Right.
Hamas is the organization. That's one thing you have to be real careful with in this deal is we're not saying all Palestinians are bad,
Right.
or all Muslims are bad. We're saying these organizations are
exactly.
terrorist
groups,
organizations.
And there's people that are cheering,
Yes.
Israel's wrong, and when they get defeated, we're celebrating in the streets.
Yeah.
And we see that you said Chicago.
Yeah, and what people need to understand is that this was an unprovoked attack against unarmed civilians, and there was wickedness. There was raping and torturing. There were children. I went and stood in a yard where they found a dead grandmother who had been drinking tea on her front porch and is brutally gunned down. You can shoot somebody how many times, with an automatic weapon. They set houses on fire and waited for the people to come out and shot them down. This was a brutal attack.
Some people who did nothing.
If someone did this to a little town in the United States, the United States would immediately go to war. That we would want to find every person who did this terrible, wicked thing and bring them to justice. And if they will give up and come and sit in a world court or something like that and be sentenced, that's fine, and go to jail. There you go. Justice will have been done, but they won't give up. They are fighting back. They're trying to defend themselves by putting themselves behind human shields. And so Israel has to go after Hamas. You can't let this stand. This is not something that can stand. You don't let people come and attack your people and kill them like this and kidnap them out of your country and just say, well, it's okay, let's get along and let's don't do anything. No, we have to have justice. Justice is important. Yeah. And so Israel is fighting Hamas. Hamas is hiding in Gaza behind the civilian population of Gaza.
So if Israel does anything
Israel does, they're going to kill civilians. Well, does that mean, well, okay, we'll just sit down and not do anything? We'll just let Hamas go on to exist because they've hidden in a hospital, or they're hiding their weapons in a school, or they're, taking our Israeli citizens and putting them next to their command centers. I mean, it's wickedness. It's not right. You shouldn't do that.
Something has to be done.
Something has to be done. There is a way for a Palestinian organization to sit on one side of the table and an Israeli government representative sit on another side of the table and talk and negotiate, make deals. Israel's made deals, given up land. Israel doesn't even control the Temple Mount in Jerusalem. They have given up control of large areas. There is a way to negotiate through this. It's not necessary to kill and do these wicked things.
Yeah, we pray for peace.
We pray
that
for
this
peace.
would stop.
We pray for the people involved on both sides. It's terrible that civilians are hurt, ever.
Yeah.
I don't want these. Nobody wants the citizens of Gaza who are just making a living and going to school and raising their family. We don't want them to be hurt.
Yeah.
But Hamas is in there. Hamas is executing a wicked agenda in there. If Israel's going to go after Hamas, they're going to have to go into Gaza. It's a terrible thing. And we're speaking simplistically. There's so many nuances to this. I don't want to be the one who sits at the table and tries to work it all out.
Yeah.
But we have to. That's what should be done, not these attacks.
Yeah. So as you listen to this, and maybe this is the first time you've heard, this information about Israel and Hamas, something you could do as a listener is pray. Pray for the peace.
Pray for the peace of Israel. The Bible
Gaza.
says we're blessed if we do that.
Yeah. And it's in our best interest to not see people dying.
Absolutely.
Innocent grandmothers and mothers and fathers and children, taken from their homes, killed on the street in their vehicle. It's horrible.
It is.
And we want this to come to an end as peaceably as possible.
And Israel has a right to be there. The Jewish people have a right to have a land for themselves. We have a land for ourselves. Nations around the world have their people groups in a designated land. You can say, well, they conquest. They went in and occupied. There was war. There's war all over the world to get territories. Territories have now been assigned. And we're in our age, we like to avoid the wars and the conflicts. We like to believe in diplomacy and everything.
Yeah, where do the Jews... the Jews have Israel.
Yes.
What do the Palestinians have?
Well, the Palestinians would say they lived there first. They didn't. Israel lived there first, historically. If you are a practicer of a Muslim faith and you can't live in the place you want to live, there are multiple countries that follow the faith of Islam where you could go and live and express your faith, have a business, do everything. Your children could be raised according to the faith tradition that you want to have. There's many nations in the world where they could live and could be. Israel has none of that. Where else would Israel go? Lots of Jews still live in other countries, but that little bitty slice of Israel is so small, and it's so controversial for them to have it.
I know. Isn't that crazy? If you look at Israel on a map, it's so
the smallest little thing in the world.
So
we
small. Drove
from the northern part of Galilee to Jerusalem in 2 hours. A little less than 2 hours, I think. It's just not a very big country.
So, as a listener, keep Israel in your prayers. Pray for peace. Pray for this nonsense to end. Pray for the hostages to be brought home.
The best word is de-escalation. Pray that everybody will take a step back.
Yeah.
Israel needs to, too, probably at some point. Say, wait a minute, I think they've shown some restraint, but everybody needs to de-escalate.
Yeah. So with that being said, may the Lord bless you, keep you, shine his face upon you, and may the Lord bless Israel.